All right.
Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast. It is time for your Monday Calamity Jane weekly live stream. James, how are you doing on this late summer evening?
I'm doing great. How are you over there?
I'm doing fine. The heat kind of finally broke a little bit over here, and we're no longer in the high 90s, and we're down to the practically frigid low 80s right now. So
Frigid low 80s. That's funny. Yeah, over here, no real complaints. Over here in Los Angeles. I mean, um, yeah, no,
it's
it's the
LA.
weather's
I mean,
great.
right? Yeah,
I
you're gonna get
feel
you're
kind of
gonna get
guilty saying,
you're gonna get a
yeah,
ton of rain in November, and then that's about it.
yeah, if we're lucky, yes,
Yeah,
get
yeah.
some. So yeah, other than that, good. Doing just fine. Just dandy.
Good, good, good. Well, in any case, what are we working on today?
I will go into share screen mode. I am going to, hang on, let me get my mouse over here. Aha! Host disabled participant screen sharing
Yeah,
messaging.
I know, I forgot. It happens still. All right,
Aha!
it's set up now though. It's set up now though.
Cool. It's not even, it's like a weird running joke that I don't even know if it even matters kind of things. Like, I guess it's something.
No, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Am I going to remember? That's always
Yeah,
the
that's always,
question.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So for today, I thought I was going to start setting up an actual scene for animation.
Mm-hmm.
You and I, when we have our offline meetings, sometimes we talk about subject matter to bring up for our stream. And I don't know, you had a great idea. It's like, why don't we work on a scene for the cartoon? Well, I mean, because we are making a cartoon, right?
There is that aspect. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
not that what
it's a
you've
good
been
idea,
doing
Eric.
is been unproductive. I mean, we need all these characters, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, it's like, wow, what a great novel idea. Let's do that. Let's work on the cartoon.
Oh, that's why I get paid the big bucks. That's what they pay me
So
for.
yeah, so I'm gonna actually. So here we are with the sketch for in our animatic Act Two, and so right now you see everything is pencil sketch, but I'm gonna start fleshing out the scene. This might take us a couple of streams to build it out, but I'm gonna make every character here
Mm-hmm.
ready to go for animation. The background will be probably come in last, but I will see if I can kind of figure something out for the background based on our 3D animated. I mean our 3D stuff from Blender.
It makes sense. I mean, that's why you build it is so we
Yes, see if
can
we can
block the scene how we want it and be confident that we'll have a background to go with it.
exactly. I'm confident that that'll work, but I want to say that for last because again, I don't really my Blender skills are not as quick on the draw as they are with Adobe Animate Flash. So yeah, so I'll go here. I'll start here for now
Mm-hmm.
with Calamity Jane, build her pose out, and kind of get rolling a little bit. Now, obviously, her expression's wrong, but I think I can kind of get away with a lot of this pose
Yeah,
for what she's
actually,
doing here.
yeah, I think
See,
you're right.
so I'll just kind of go from there. And I think what I'm going to do is kind of just do a light. I don't want lime green, but something just to kind of go in the background there, so she can pop off of the screen. So before we were going on, I wanted to kind of get this. I kind of wanted to talk about uh, video game sequels and the disappointing ones in the Hall of Fame and the pantheon of disappointing video
Uh-oh.
game sequels. Because as I was telling you before stream, I just finished Last of Us 2, and I was talking to you, Eric, about how I was hate playing that game because I had so much invested from the first one that I thought, you know what, I got to see this through to the end, just like the characters do in the
Yeah,
game, and
yeah.
I'm I am, and I was disappointed to say the least. I mean,
Disappointed. Well, I mean, if my knowledge of The Last of Us 2 is correct, you are not the only person who was disappointed by
yeah,
that experience.
yeah, a
Is
lot of people,
there you it seems like they changed a lot from the first game, not the least of which the characters um, are like seemingly like yes their names are the same but
Wow. Yeah.
like their attitudes and their behaviors seem antithetical to what was established in the previous outings. If I'm not too mistaken.
Um, I mean, I can see them. You know what it could. I don't know. Should we even go into spoiler mode? I mean, the game's been out for a year now. Should we
Is
talk about
the
spoilers?
is the statute of limitations up on it? I mean, I don't
I
care. You know me, I don't care about spoilers at all to a
All right.
fault. So I'm not worried about it. So I leave it up to your judgment
Okay. Well,
and
I'll
your
do it anyway.
discretion.
People yell, fine. I mean, but
Yeah, well.
uh, the main characters, obviously, in the first one are Joel and Ellie. So
Mm-hmm.
Joel's character pretty much stays the same to me in this next game. But I think what the fault comes from is so Ellie, yes, her character changes through the course of the game, and I think a lot of people didn't like the change that she went through. But I think
That's
it's a
yeah,
writer's right to do that if they want to. I mean, they're the one
yeah.
writing and entertaining, and if they want to steer the car off a cliff and have a terrible ending, then that's their prerogative, right?
So
I mean, I don't know.
I'm guessing the ending was terrible then,
I
based on your
I was
implication.
I well, you know what though? The thing with me was I was so over the game anyway
Yeah.
that they could have had like a bunch of sunflowers popping out of out of the ground, and I wouldn't have cared. I just didn't
Joel,
care.
who I don't think I'm spoiling anything because he dies at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, yes, he
Um,
does.
he doesn't come back as a lovable zombie like Nick Frost
that
at the end of
that
Shaun
would
of
have
the
been
Dead.
interesting. That would have been an interesting take on the game. Could have that would have I would have loved to play that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I didn't care for the first game at
mhm.
all. And I know that's heretical to say, and I have to turn in my video game fan card as a result.
Yeah, I mean, I think
But
you're crazy.
yeah, but I don't particularly care for stealth games. I
Mhm.
don't particularly care for zombies. I didn't particularly care for Naughty Dog's interpretation of zombies.
Yeah.
I don't particularly care for artificial scarcity to justify a crafting system.
Hmm.
I didn't particularly care for Joel and Ellie's relationship because I'm not a dad. I don't have children. I'm not
Hmm.
looking for that kind of interaction. So there was literally nothing about that game that was for me, and that's fine. No one ever needs to make a game for me, but because of what it just wasn't appealing to me. So
Hmm.
I played the first game very briefly, very quickly came to the conclusion that it was not for me, and then abandoned ship before any of the exciting stuff happened. And
So
through the zeitgeist, I know everything that happens in the first game,
yeah.
but none of it would have meant anything to me. I'll be honest. I'm going to be super geeky now, and I'm going to draw a comparison from a video game to a TV show.
Hmm.
So Star Trek Voyager, which I'm working my way through right now, which I like way
Okay.
more than I was expecting to, by the way.
Okay. All
There's a
right.
very interesting episode in season 2 where the Vulcan Tuvok and the liaison officer Neelix get merged into a single being that calls himself Tuvix, right?
Huh.
And Janeway, the captain, at the end of this episode, has to make the hard choice of whether this new autonomous sentient being with his own experiences and memories gets to exist, or now that they found the cure, does she have to make the hard choice and effectively kill Tuvix to reinstate Tuvok and Neelix? And of course, she makes that hard choice. Um, but it was a far more interesting. It was a far more interesting exploration of the trolley problem than I felt the ending of The Last of Us was.
And we go over the trolley problem. I know you. I know we talked about it before. I don't remember. Is this the whole? Will you break the trolley to save
One
a whole
person or
trolley?
five people.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah, I
yeah,
thought
yeah,
that's what it
yeah.
was.
Yeah, there's a trolley on a track. It's gonna hit five people if you don't do anything.
Hmm.
But if you flip the switch, you won't kill the five people, but you will kill one person. But you'll be the one causing the death of that one person, right?
Okay. Hmm.
And it's a pretty famous philosophical quandary,
Hmm.
and it's it's discussed in games and TV shows all the time, and the ending of The Last of Us is a classic example of the trolley problem, right? Because Ellie is immune, these scientists find a cure, but to extract a cure they have to kill Ellie, and Joel makes the decision not to let them kill Ellie,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all fine and good, but like I've watched all the cutscenes and stuff, because we live in the modern era, and you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
play video games to watch the cutscenes anymore.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I mean, it's well acted. I mean, I think Troy Baker is a phenomenal actor, and it's a crime they killed off Joel in the first minutes of Last of Us 2 because of
Mm-hmm.
underutilizing a really phenomenal actor. But
Yeah.
um, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Um, so rewinding a little bit, I know you said you didn't really identify with the Joel and Ellie concept, but I mean, like, posing this over to you though, like, we played Mario, we play Samus, we play Donkey Kong, and we can't identify with them either. So, was there any? I mean, do you see what I mean? Like,
Well, I mean,
where's the?
Nintendo's not asking you to identify with Mario,
Mm-hmm.
Samus, or Donkey Kong. Nintendo has always been. I mean, they sometimes take explorations into this route, and sometimes it's better than others. Like Metroid Other M was an absolute travesty,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then Breath of the Wild, they tried to build in a lot of lore, and they made everybody speak but Link, which I thought was a bizarre choice. Um, and but generally speaking, Nintendo is and always has been, and it's one of the reasons why I still play Nintendo games. Um, in as much as there's ever a story in a Nintendo game, it's to support the gameplay, right?
Okay. Okay.
Whereas with a Naughty Dog game, oftentimes I feel like the gameplay is there to support the story. Which is why, like, you play Uncharted and you go, "This is mediocre," but oh my god, these cutscenes are so good, right? In my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a different development philosophy. I mean, Nintendo's philosophy on games is very different than Naughty Dog's. Neither one is right. It very much is about what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And they both, create compelling experiences that people enjoy. So there's nothing wrong with it. But, I don't get the sense that Nintendo expects me to put myself in the shoes of a giant gorilla wearing a red necktie with his own initials on it. Like, I don't think that that's their expectation.
So, and you're saying that you feel you're saying that with Naughty Dog, with Last of Us, it's more of a serious nature kind of a game. So you want to take the game seriously and sort of live through the characters a little bit.
I feel like that's the expectation of the developers, especially given The Last of Us 2, where halfway through the game you change protagonists,
Yeah.
and that was a very intentionally done move on their part, right? Like, I know exactly why they did what they did there. It was specifically for you to this character that you've been hating for the whole game to all of a sudden try to sympathize with them, right?
Yeah.
So you
Mm-hmm.
don't do that unless you have an expectation that you want the audience to put themselves in the shoes of the character, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So what they're going for, what their intent is definitely different than what Nintendo's intent is with a majority of their games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, that's my
Uh,
thoughts.
yeah. Um, as far as the game itself, it's the first one wasn't anything great either or groundbreaking as far as gameplay. It's pretty mediocre, maybe
Yeah.
C plus at best. I never played it for the game. I played it mainly for the narrative. I enjoyed it a lot. The first one that is, but yeah, I think it missed the mark on gameplay wise because as you said, you do have a protagonist at the beginning with Ellie. You spend 15 hours building your character up with skill tree stuff, only to have it yanked from you, and you switch over to Abby, and you do the exact same thing, and then they yank her away too. And
Mm-hmm.
so then by that time, I'm fed up. I throw my hands up, going, I don't like this game. I'm tired of trying to invest any time or effort into any thought as to how to develop this character, and I'm just gonna start trying to break the game. And that's what I pretty much try to do, running around while people are like, "Hey, there's a person here," and I right in their face and just kind of hit them in the face. Like just things you would never do in a game like that, just to be for comedic value. Because
Oh, I forgot
I was
about
trying to make
that.
myself
Yeah.
enjoy the game in my own way at that point. I was just so over it. Um,
Yeah, that's another thing that bothered me about the Last of Us 2 is I don't know, and Naughty Dog certainly isn't in an exclusive club here. I'm like the personal glorification of violence. I guess I'm just at a point in my life where I don't find that particularly. I find it like it feels gratuitous,
uh-huh.
and maybe it's because it's a game, right? Like, I'm actually one of the articles that I'm writing right now for YouTube is about revenge movies, like indie revenge movies that are great that you haven't seen before, right? In the
Yeah.
vein of John Wick
Hmm.
and things like that. And a lot of those movies are extremely violent, extremely violent.
Yeah.
But as I'm looking for clips for the video, I don't find the violence gratuitous. It's necessary um, for the scope of the film, but by the same token, the audience is in control of the violence. There are these moments that they come and they go. They're curated. They're written by a writer. They're choreographed by a fight choreographer. They're shot by a cinematographer. It's all very authored.
Hmm.
Whereas, in a game like The Last of Us 2, you can literally run from bad guy to bad guy and shove a screwdriver into their eye socket, and you can get that same animation to play ad infinitum if you have the interest to do that. And because you have the player control, and in fact, it's encouraged by the game to do this because it's the most effective way to conclude, um,
Yeah.
a lot of the encounters, as you elucidated moments ago. Um, I find it gratuitous. It's weird that I can watch ultra violence in a movie and feel like it's valuable and it adds something to the piece, but then in a game like The Last of Us, it feels gratuitous. And
Hmm.
just to be completely hypocritical, it doesn't feel gratuitous in a game like Doom, right? But Doom or Mortal Kombat for that matter. But both of those games, at their heart, like they exist only for the violence, and there's nothing else. There's no subtext. There's no um, uh, anything else to get caught up on. I mean, Doom Eternal, I feel like got up its own butt a little bit with the heavy-handed God narrative that they constructed,
Hmm.
and as a result, it paled in comparison to Doom 2016. But um, The Last of Us 2, because we're supposed to feel for these characters, because we're supposed to empathize with them
Hmm.
and relate to them, when you get into those combat encounters and then graphically murder people in a very personal way, it completely breaks any sense of reality that I could ever have for them or any empathy that I could feel for them, right? And
Yeah.
that's the other thing about like these revenge movies. You're not really supposed to empathize with Kevin Bacon in Death Sentence, right? Like you're
Hmm.
supposed to pity him for sort of the darkness that's consumed him, but you're not supposed to empathize with him, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so as a result, it just I think it goes back to gameplay and narrative working at cross purposes. Um, and it's no different than, and we've had this discussion before, like Red Dead Redemption, where you're playing James Marsden or whatever the character's name is,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to have sympathy for him because he's tried to right his ways and gets pulled back into the seedy underworld of the lawless West.
Hmm.
But then when you take control of the character, you can go around and tie women to train tracks and then get an achievement for it. And I'm like, okay, that seems like it cross purposes to the story you're trying to tell, right?
Yeah. Um, it's funny. Yeah, I love Red Dead Redemption One.
Yeah, I liked it too. I did like the first one a great deal.
Yeah.
Um, but it doesn't change the fact that the narrative and the game were two separate products
Yeah.
entirely.
It's like you're living in like you go into comic book kind of like the weird black and white with the top hat guy and tying the girl to the train tracks. Then
Yeah,
you're back onto you need to
right.
go
And then
find
yeah,
Bill Williamson
I'm
and all that
trying to
stuff.
reclaim my honor, and I'm like,
Yeah,
what
it's
honor?
so bizarre.
You literally just tied a woman to a set of train tracks. You've like literally abandoned your honor, So yeah,
Yeah.
And honestly, the only time they got it right, Rockstar in particular, and I think it was an accident, was GTA 5 with the Travis character, who
Uh-huh.
is a complete sociopath. And the character in all the cutscenes, it acts exactly like the character that the players play the characters. And so there
Uh-huh.
isn't this cognitive dissonance between the player's sociopathy that they're
Hmm.
encouraged to have while they play these games and the sociopathy of the character, right? But
Hmm.
then Franklin and the Italian stereotype guy, I don't remember his name, um, um, they are both in some way honorable people, right, in their own minds. But then again, once you give control back to the player, they turn back into complete sociopaths. And it's not really even the player's fault entirely. The game designers encourage sociopathy from players, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2, particularly The Last of Us 2, based on some of the cutscenes and stuff that I've seen, um, it really betrays the character. And I know Ellie is supposed to be a lot more angry and out for
Yeah.
revenge, and I
Yeah.
understand that. But even in these revenge movies, I mean, there's a few exceptions, but most of these revenge movies that I'm researching right now, the hatred and the vengeance is very directed at particular people, and the
Yeah.
protagonists go out of their way to avoid collateral damage, right? And again,
Yeah.
exceptions abound, but
Sure. Sure.
what I see of the Last of Us 2, Ellie doesn't give a flying f about anybody, and
No.
just kills literally anybody in her way, whether they're a good person or a bad person.
Yeah, and then that gets into this whole weird hypocrisy thing kind of going on. Like,
Exactly.
why does she care so much about um getting revenge here, and then she's pretty much creating mini Ellie's anywhere she goes because this faction, this evil guy that's joined this faction probably has a child at home that he needs to provide for,
Yeah.
and it's funny, even towards the last part of the game, there's like a note where Ellie picks it up and said like, I can't help, I have to defend my family. I'm gonna have to join this evil gang, blah blah blah, blah. And and naturally Ellie's gonna go kill that guy at
Right.
some
No,
point.
she probably has already murdered him. Like,
Yeah, or yes, and
if
so
if
it's
any
like,
if the footage that I've seen is anything to go by.
yeah, and
Um.
so like, what were they designers intending to do? Like,
Yeah.
what were they trying to say?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
Ellie's a hypocrite, or
Yeah. I don't think it was intentional. I think that they, like Rockstar, expect the players to compartmentalize the gameplay portion from the story portion. And my
mm,
evidence is the entirety of the Uncharted series, right? Where
yeah,
Nathan Drake is this lovable rogue character who
hmm,
you're supposed to empathize with, you're supposed to like and root for, and
hmm,
then he spends a full 50% of the game murdering any human being who looks at him the wrong way,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
the difference, though, I think, honestly, I think humor helps a lot with helping the more heavy, the more serious you make the game, the more absurd, because you're walking a thinner tightrope by making it feel like you're really being serious here. Then here you are able to, I don't know, do anything random like go and hit somebody in the face with a baseball bat a few times
right.
and then start crying. It's just weird.
Yeah,
Whereas with Nathan Drake games, uh, there's so much comedy already mixed in with a narrative that it's okay to do whatever. Like, it just feels more forgiving.
yeah, it is. It's a lot more forgiving. I mean, it's in Indiana Jones' body count isn't nearly as high as Nathan Drake, but
Yeah,
Indiana Jones is still guilty of this as well. I mean,
yeah,
he's as an archaeologist, he's got an
yeah,
impressive body count, right?
yeah. He does. Yes,
I mean, like everybody's favorite scene from Raiders, the guy gets out the scimitar and he starts
yes,
flipping it around, and Indy
yeah,
just shoots him,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
In
yeah,
cold blood. So, it's not like, again, it's not like Naughty Dog is breaking any sort of rule that hasn't been established 1,000 times over, but the way they do it so wantonly, and then there's the fact that there is the interaction, right?
mhm,
I can't control Indy's actions at any point watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I can control what Nathan Drake does, right? to
Yeah.
a point. Like, in Uncharted in particular, you get into these shooting gallery sections, and the only
Mhm.
way you progress is by murdering everybody in the room.
Yeah.
So the game
Yeah.
designers aren't giving you a choice. I mean, they are telling you commit mass murder before you can get to the next funny cutscene, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and I like the Uncharted games enough that I'm willing to ignore the fact that I'm committing genocide of a small nation over the course of a single game. But The Last of Us 2, I didn't like the gameplay at all, and I didn't really care about the story. And so, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. With all that being said, and going even macro, zooming out a little bit farther, this game is I would consider a triple A title game, which I can't like. It's getting to a point now where if the game is labeled triple A, I may have to avoid it from now on.
Yeah,
The
that's what
game
I've started doing.
felt too bloated, too long. The art is beautiful,
Yeah.
and so it's beautiful art. So if you want to get a triple A game, you're gonna get beautiful art to look at, which is great. But if you want to play a purely good old fashioned game, I'm happy playing Pac-Man '99 right now on my Switch.
Yeah,
I get more
exactly.
satisfaction out of that,
Yeah. No, I
entertainment
agree.
wise.
No, I totally agree with you. I generally speaking avoid AAA as well, and a part of it is that and I have yet to be proven wrong, at least recently.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's bloat is a great word, right? AAA games are bloated corpses, in my opinion. They are mechanics that were developed 15 years ago or more. They've
Yeah,
never really iterated on, and they add one or two new gimmicks and tens of millions of dollars of new art, and then they call it a new game, right?
yeah, and yeah, and then new mechanic is used a little bit, and then they just keep milking. They keep adding sections just to milk it to feel like you're getting your now $70 worth of
$70, yeah, right.
game game stuff. And I like we were talking offline. Like I just got done playing Last of Us 2 this past week, and then Journey, and I had a much more pleasant experience playing Journey than
Mm-hmm.
I did Last of Us 2, which
Mm-hmm.
is sad. And that game's like 3 hours long, 4 hours long, maybe.
Yeah, we were
But
talking about this and playing Abzu, and which
yeah,
is a game done by a few of the people who did Journey. Yeah, it's a far, and I played Abzu all the way through twice because I liked it so
wow,
much. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Um, and it is there is tension and there's fear, right? Because you're this strange robot scuba diver, and there's these
hmm,
aliens, and you don't know if they're friendly or evil, and there is risk. You can die in Abzu, and I think you can die in Journey as well, right? But um,
yeah,
the
yeah,
consequences aren't any worse than they are in The Last of Us. You just go back to the last checkpoint, right?
yeah, hmm,
But the tension I felt from dying was much higher than I ever feel. Even in like Uncharted, which is a game I like. Nathan Drake died. Okay, I just got to do this last
yeah,
checkpoint. But
yeah.
yeah, you get a lot more invested in something like Journey and Abzu, and when you die, it's like, oh shit, like it's a lot more shocking. Sorry to curse there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
no, no. I mean, we're a family show, but yeah, we're allowed to, once in a while. That's what
yeah, just
happens.
it slips out. Um, yeah, because kids have
um,
never heard any of these words before, but
but yeah, back to this point about Abzu. So yeah, the deaths do feel more meaningful. So going back to Last of Us 2, at the end of the game, Ellie gets stabbed in the side for some reason, and it's like, yeah, she freaks out. But I'm thinking to myself, you've been shot in the head
mm-hmm.
4 or 5 times the way I've been playing. Because I've been playing really loose with the shooting. You've been shot in the shoulder, everything else, and now you're hurting. Like you do, like I literally, you get bit by zombies. You just wrap yourself up with the method. I can't connect that together. I don't believe
Yep,
it.
it's the other
it
disconnect, right?
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. It's like it's just weird. I just can't get into that. I don't feel any. I know Ellie, you're gonna be just fine.
Yeah,
You're
and
limping. You're limping towards this light to finish the game. Limp, limp, limp. Why? Just give me my normal run mode. I know, I get it. You're trying to manipulate my emotions here. It's not working.
yep,
Just because you built up the whole game a certain way.
yep, exactly. And the sad part is, I think some of this could be handled in the writing, and they choose the writers and the designers are as aware as you and I are that the player has gone through the game and has been shot and stabbed and beaten and bitten, for 15 hours, right?
Yeah,
But they're lazy, and they just go, ah, they'll go along with it, right? They don't try to stick with the rules that they've created, which is
yeah.
you're playing Supergirl, right? And if they were smart, they would find a way to utilize the weaknesses that they've given her. So rather than physical weaknesses, emotional weaknesses. But
Mm.
I just don't think the writing is as good. I just don't think the writers are very good. I just don't think that they know how to um, uh, um, work within their own rule sets, and so they get lazy, you know. And it's a part of it is because Amy Hennig left. I feel like Amy Hennig was the real soul of Naughty Dog, and when
Mm.
they forced her out of that company, the writing just hasn't been as good since she left. Pure and simple.
Well, I mean, I think you mentioned this. Like, Last of Us Two is the first official foray without Amy
Without any
Hennig.
Hennig's name in it at any in any capacity. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I gotta say, it's the worst. Like, out of all the Naughty Dog games I've played, this one's definitely the worst one.
yeah.
And I don't know if I'm gonna trust to buy another game from them. But it's gotten to a point so where it's so such a bad taste that I don't want to play any more AAA games for a while. I just want to play casual, quick kind of games, and just see different game mechanics, instead of playing the same thing and then just playing it over and over in different boxes to move around in,
Yep.
and to
That's
hide behind and stuff like that.
it's why I will never play another open world game, and it's why I'm so sad that Zelda has just turned into an open world game, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like, well, yeah, Zelda retreaded the same ground a lot, but its structure, its layout is pretty unique, and people have tried to replicate it. Few have succeeded. Beyond Oasis on the Genesis is a great example.
Mm.
Batman Arkham Asylum is a great example.
Oh, yeah.
But
First one's great. Yeah.
yeah, but like generally speaking, or in Arkham City too, I thought Arkham Knight suffered from AAA bloat, but
Mm-hmm.
Arkham City and Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum and Arkham City were great examples of how you sort of take the Zelda mechanic and do it and not in a Zelda game. And now that
Mm-hmm.
Zelda's not doing the Zelda mechanic anymore, it's just gone to AAA, open world game. It's just like, well, that's sad. It's a game mechanics genre that I enjoy that no one is doing anymore because
Uh,
Nintendo's not even doing it anymore.
they'll get back to it. I think soon enough.
Well,
Things come full circle, right? At least
yeah,
like you be hopeful of it.
we'll see. I mean, I think the way that they're sort of trying to split the difference a little bit is by re-releasing old Zelda games and then just calling them HD remasters, which just
Oh
means
yeah.
they're up-resing them to 1080p resolution, like the Skyward Sword release that just
Hmm.
happened. But
Yeah.
and Skyward Sword is fun. It's not my favorite. It had some really, really great ideas in it, but then it had the forbidden or the I don't know that black toe monster, which was just the
Yeah.
dumbest.
I couldn't stand that
It
thing
was
either.
so stupid. It was just so dumb. It was such a misstep. And then like the
Yeah.
final boss Demise is so cool looking, and you're like, how did this giant toe turn into Demise? Like that doesn't. It was so dumb, and its weak points were smaller toes. Ah, I really just hated the I hated that thing. It really was not
Yeah.
good. And to my understanding, for the remake, they did not change any aspect of the encounters with that thing.
Oh
And
man.
it's a real bummer because that was like far and away one of the worst aspects of that game.
Yeah.
Like, they went through and they cleaned up all the motion controls. They even added a non-motion control scheme if you want to do that.
Hmm.
They got rid of a bunch of the forced tutorials. They removed a bunch of the mandatory text blobs. A huge number of quality of life improvements. But
Yeah.
then that stupid giant toe is still in the game. But well, we are at 35 minutes. This was a freewheeling conversation.
Yeah. And we'll continue it next week for sure. Like we didn't even get to Metroid Prime 2.
Oh,
So
echoes. Oh,
because we're going through our theme of disappointing sequels, and we have to include Metroid Prime 2.
although
Yeah.
although they did for me, and I know some people didn't like it very much, but Metroid Prime 3 completely redeemed
Yes, it did.
the mistakes of Metroid Prime 2.
Yeah.
So
100% agree with you on that one.
yeah, but
Yeah.
All right. Well, stay safe out there, everybody. Thanks for sticking around with us for 5 minutes longer than usual. We'll see you next week at the same time, same place. See you later, everybody.
Uh,
Good night.
I